Hi friends, it's Angie again. The rains list. Like I'm spinning so many plates. I'm trying to do an audio reading of Fiona Barnett's book, Eyes Wide Open, an audio reading of the rains list, and a daily or almost daily Bible study. And that's just without when I just get grabbed by the Holy Spirit and have to do a truther video. So I noticed I went to Spidercat Web for the link again. Dr. Joan Coleman is now dead, but she was a psychiatrist who specialized in treating satanic ritual abuse survivors. And when she saw patterns emerging, as I did with my DVD back in about 2009, Chasing Rainbows, when you start getting 2, 3, 4, 5 people naming the same abuser, you feel like you need to do something. So Dr. Joan Coleman recorded names of people that had been reported to her credibly by at least 2 people and often many more. Now, I noticed when I went back to Spidercat Web that she's now got audio readings up there. And I don't blame you, Kat, at all. I think Chris Spivey was the first person to publish Dr. Coleman's list other than in blog form. And then Kat published, and then I think UK Columns done a reading of the Rains list. But I think the more of us, the same as Fiona Barnett said about her book, the more people that get it out on platforms, different accents, different parts of the world, the better. But I've only done part 1, and the first part didn't record. Let's just see, this is recording. Yeah. So it missed a lot of people. So I'm gonna start again, actually, and read up to Lord McAlpine because the first few names were missed in my original broadcast. So here we go. And then I'll jump ahead. When we get to Lord McAlpine, I'll jump ahead. Let's find the Rains list. Here it is. Oh, that's not it. Well, that is it, but that's the last recording. So I'll start right from Kat's blog, which has had the most traffic. She gets about 500,000 hits a year on her blog. It's a fantastic blog. Check it out, Spidercat Web blog. And then she's done a couple. I haven't listened to them. I don't know who's doing the reading, but she's done a couple of audios there, so that's great. So I'll just read out RAIN's Ritual Abuse Information Network and Support, founded in 1989. Wow. Alters, other personalities in those who have DID. DID is dissociative identity disorder. Mart is a cult name of Joseph Stein. Peter is a cult name of Don Taylor. James is a cult name of William Rattray. Pals, my informant held in Lee Park, haven't. ILF, Jean LaFontaine, Professor Emeritus, LSE, London School of Economics, founder member of Inform, author. KM, Keeper Master, Mark Davis, aka the Marquis. SRA, Satanic Ritual Abuse. SRAS, Satanic Ritual Abuse Survivor. BS, Barbara S. VH, Veronica H. Natasha, maiden names when I first knew her. ACPO, Association of Chief Police Officers. Come on, help us here, police. And HP, High Priest. These are abbreviations. People, I will write these in the order in which they were given to me, says Dr. Joan Coleman. The following 20 or so were given by HG or her alters over the years from 1997 onwards. There's people been working at this for like more than 2 decades, just awesome, most of which have since been confirmed by those we speak of as pals, who have provided many more names in addition. For the first few years I knew HG, these were the only names she mentioned and appeared to be her main controllers and abusers. Gradually, over the years, she started to talk of others, but at that time there were still so many cult-loyal alters who tried to prevent these disclosures. So we've got Joseph Stein, aka Martin, well, I'm not going to read out. You can see that. He was described as HG's keeper, and he formerly had considerable power over her. Many of her alters were hypnotized, yeah, that's huge, to believe they were in love with him and that he loved her, even though he abused her. Most alters are wise to him now. Sue is still vulnerable. He's still very much involved with trying to get at HG. Can appear very charming, but in reality is extremely sadistic. Julie Stein was married to Martin. She used to text me frequently, says Dr. Joan Coleman, now deceased, and sometimes left answer phone messages on the Rains phone. Wow. I wonder if Dr. Coleman left those in an evidence file. I once lifted the phone in the middle and she immediately rang off. I'm told that in 2006 she found out that Martin had taken up with another woman and she threatened to expose the group and him. Ooh, dangerous. And I understand that she was disposed of. No details. Certainly I've heard nothing from her for a long time. Martin apparently had a cult marriage to the new woman, QV, in London on the 17th of the 11th November 2006. Matthew Stein, son of Martin and Julie. And then she gives his address. I don't know if this is current. Don Taylor, aka Peter, clinical psychologist. This is on the Rains list, people. This is so infiltrated, it's horrendous. Who does hypnosis using blue lights? I have several addresses and phone numbers for him, all in Southampton. Shout out to Sue Freewoman. Also another address in Southampton, blah, blah. Website, I haven't heard anything of him for the past 2 years or so. Brave woman, this Dr. Coleman, brave woman. William Rattray, aka James, I'm not going to leave addresses, near Salisbury, which is where my father used to regularly go, and Ted Heath's old stomping ground. Has had below the knee amputation of one leg, uses some sort of prosthesis. Have not heard anything of him for about 5 years, could be dead. Les Saunders died a few years ago, owned the Queen's Head pub in Ludgershall, Andover, which was one of my father's military postings with the Royal Air Force. My sister Sharon was born on that posting, and I believe that's where they train the SAS, Special Air Services. And my father was privy to that because he used to come home regularly, excited like a schoolboy about the latest assassination methods with no trace that he had learned, including one, I think, that was perpetrated on my sister. Which, my father used to say to my mother regularly, I'll hurt you a dozen different ways and never leave a mark. But with my sister, it was something, I remember my father coming home probably when we lived in Andover and saying, if you fill somebody's lungs with fluid and then kneel on their chest, it will look like a drowning death and you'll never be done for murder. I hope nobody uses that for the wrong reasons. Okay. So Helen lived in a caravan in grounds. They lot and do that. Helen lived in a caravan in the grounds when she was 16, and she was reintroduced into the cult by Les Saunders. Had been in children's homes after her mother died. Lord William Rees-Mogg, and there's another Rees-Mogg, very vocal at the moment. Former editor, writer and director for various publishing companies. Address from Who's Who, 1999. I won't give that, but it's London, now age 79, and this is a long time ago. Geoffrey Levy, Daily Mail columnist. Peter King, electrician, formerly of Andover. Have heard nothing of him for 5 years. Paul Beadle, formerly of 44 Andover, rumoured to have moved. Susan James, Record Department, Bristol Royal Infirmary, passes on messages and gives info about patients. Many people doing that, including Michelle Bingham. Bruce Parker, Winchester, works as a presenter on Southern TV. Recognised in the Queen's 2017 honours list. Of course he is. April 2009, Bruce Parker's son Charlie, a BBC cameraman, found dead in his flat, aged 34. Wow. Lord Montague, Palace House, Bewley, which is where the dressage 3-day eventing, my sisters used to go to that regularly, my father. Bewley in Hampshire. Also has a flat in London. He's very important in the group, Lord Montague, and is known as the Grand Master, which is possibly a Freemasonic reference. Many of the cult festival ceremonies are held at the palace, in parts not open to the public, or in the ruined abbey, and I'd say the same about Fore Abbey in County Westmeath. Some are held partly in the New Forest, which is all around Bewley. It should be pronounced Beaulieu, but it's called Bewley. Although parts of his estate, including the Car Museum, are open to the public, there are many other parts that are not. All ceremonies take place at night when the gates are locked. He died in 2016 and left 21 million in his will. Of course he did. Oh, God. Mike Hancock, MP. MP for Portsmouth, Liberal Democrat. No details about him re cult involvement, not mentioned by pals, but he must have been mentioned by at least 2 SRA survivors. Sir Max Hastings, editor and journalist, again not mentioned by pals. The Duke of Norfolk, the 17th one. Arundel Castle, West Sussex. Born 1915, so probably dead now. He was the 17th Duke. Arundel Castle and he were mentioned by the 1st and 3rd SRA survivors I worked with. Barbara S. and Veronica H. Sadly, both are now dead. His second daughter is now Lady Karina Frost, who married David Frost in 1983. Sir David Frost, mentioned as attending some ceremonies, not simply that he married into the Norfolk family. David Frost died August 2013, and July 2015, Frost's son, Miles, aged 31, died while jogging. That's a bit weird. Dr. Katrina Prescott, 50, well, I'm not going to give the addresses. Brighton, that's another hotspot. Darren Jackson, junkie, killed by the group. No details. Virginia Bottomley, yes, this has come up in my research as well. Secretary of State for Health, which was hilarious, during the 1990s. She authorised, and this is, do you know who gives out about her constantly is Yolanda Kenwood. Virginia Bottomley, Secretary of State for Health during the early 1990s, she authorised Jean Lafontaine's research into organised and ritual abuse. Oh, God. And when the report came out, she announced on BBC Radio 4 that she was, quote, delighted that the myth of ritual abuse had been exploded. Of course you did, Virginia, with your name on the REINS list. She was mentioned frequently by Veronica Hook in considerable detail. And then she has a house in Godalming in Surrey and property on the Isle of Wight, where my sister was based for many years, and David Icke. Dr. Robert Wells, police surgeon. I have a police surgeon amongst my long-time supporters. And a police surgeon is like a doctor, qualified doctor that works for the police. And a big part of their responsibilities is to examine abuse survivors, alleged abuse survivors, and see if the medical evidence corroborates their testimony. And this doctor, ex-police surgeon, reached out to me early on in the Hampstead case and said, you're absolutely on track, keep going, you know, amazing. So Dr. Robert, I've never been able to interview her because she's still a doctor. No longer a police surgeon, but still a doctor, and absolutely believes the Hampstead children. Dr. Robert Wells, police surgeon, Winchester and Southampton, convicted in June 2004 of raping and sexually assaulting young girls. Winchester Crown Court sentenced him to 10 to 15 years in jail. And then we have, of course, Ted Heath. Former Prime Minister, homosexual, but not exclusively where children are concerned. He also, I believe, used to attend dominatrix-type prostitutes for a spanking. Has been mentioned by at least 3 satanic ritual abuse survivors, none of whom know each other. Now, since then, Mike Veal established there were about 17. I think he whittled it down to 7 absolutely credible survivors, but there were 17 when he opened up that investigation, which ended his career in many ways. Several have described long fingernails. I'm told that he wore false claws added to his nails. Yes, many people say that. With which he clawed his child victims. Died. Bastard. Died in 2005. The cult held their own funeral on the 31st of July, 1st of August 2005. Operation Conifer, February 2017. And then there's some links here. I'll put a link to Kat's blog here because she's got the links to everything. Police chief says claims Heath was a paedophile, 120% genuine. And then October 2017, 7 cases sifted from 1,500 lines of inquiry regarding Ted Heath. Can anybody say Jimmy Savile? My God. October 2017, summer closure report, and police chief appalled by previous cover-ups. Yeah. Dr. Shreyas Deepak Raj, Littlehampton, West Sussex. Sussex and Suffolk, well, it's all over. Is available to the group for treatment of any members who are excessively beaten. Oh, wait a minute. Oh God, this person is named, and yet presenting themselves as a solution and a treatment point for survivors. This is just, the double agent stuff is just devastating. Also does experimental operations to practice his surgical skills. I bet he does. Some years ago, he did bilateral mastectomy and tracheotomy on M. The latter went wrong, like my surgery did in 2014 at the Mater Hospital under Dr. Anne Robertson, or Miss, as they call themselves when they're surgeons. The latter went wrong and caused severe damage to her larynx, which I also believe happened to me in infancy in hospital, military hospital, which is why many people think I'm a man, because they damaged my vocal cords. For which she had to have a surgical repair job in France. I had my repair job done at St. James's. Voice still very husky last time I heard it. That's very interesting. They love all this inversion to try and make you sound, a woman sound like a man or a man sound like a woman. David Queen, formerly of Andover, killed by the group in 2004, no details. Michael Winner, actor, writer and director, often on TV, died in 2013. Lord Peter Goldsmith. I'd like to know, is he the father of Zach Goldsmith? Attorney General under Tony Blair's government, red flag, red flag, red flag. This information came before he was so well known. At the time, I showed Helen a photo of him with all writing obscured. Immediately, she said, that's Peter Goldsmith. I've seen him at Bewley and other places. John Hoddinott, former Chief Constable, Hants, found dead in August 2001. I wonder if anybody like John Wedger could have blown the whistle on him back then. Don't know. Michael Barrymore, TV personality and presenter, and I do recommend you look at these links of Cat Scott's of Death of Stuart Lubbock. He still hasn't had justice, his family haven't. Clive Johnston was keeper master before Mark Davis. Brian Farmer was forger on the Isle of Wight. Wonder if Frederick Apley, do you know him? Did you know Brian Farmer? Charlotte Beasley, aged 14. Oh, God love her. Made pregnant by the cult. Baby removed for sacrifice. Baby removed for sacrifice by cesarean section without anaesthetic. Jesus. Despite Raj's efforts to save her, she died. Of course she did. Jason McAteer, junkie and enforcer, killed by the cult with a drugs overdose. Barry, another Barry we don't have the second name of, messenger drove silver hatchback Peugeot, registration CG52SFJ. Charles Clarke, MP, Member of Parliament. Former Labour Education Secretary, late Home Secretary, Master. His name has been mentioned by other Reigns members who have no connections with Helen. She told me that her client was abused frequently by him and also taken abroad for further abuse. Very common trafficking. Philip Thompson drove a Volvo silver estate car, possible reg E769FOM. Charlotte Jamie, aged 10, sold to Mark Davis for £400. Peter de Savary, international entrepreneur, Scotland, also has property in the south. Former chairman of Millwall Football Club. Come on, boys. Come on, boys. Ray Aldridge Morris, psychologist, wrote many skeptical papers on SRA, wrote multiple personality disorder, an expert in deception. Lord Robert Edward McAlpine. I'll end it there because that's where my part one started, because the first part was it didn't record, so I'm more careful with that now. So thank you to Dr. Coleman, now deceased, Chris Spivey. Go check out his blog, and Cat Scott. And let's just keep going with this. Thank you. God bless.